Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to talking about one of the hottest topics in a long time here, the latest and greatest Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, Avengers Endgame. Previously, last week, we talked about how a lot of the cast really hates Brie Larson, aka Captain Marvel or Captain Feminist. And that video I made about it just passed 1 million views in about a week, so thanks a lot for that, guys. Hell yeah, let's keep on keeping on. And next, just a few days ago, we talked about how some social justice warriors were criticizing the Avengers movie for its lack of LGBT representation, amongst other silly things. Totally ridiculous, but not surprising either, since we all know radical leftists like this love going after things that are popular. It makes them feel important and relevant too, when really, we all know they're absolutely not. And well, today's story is kind of similar to that actually. Today we've got another more high-profile SJW going after Avengers Endgame, none other than the Democratic Socialist politician and Senator Bernie Sanders, who's also running for president again. We'll see if he manages to not get cheated out of the nomination again this time, or at the very least, he could not lie down and take it like a wimp, which is what he did in 2016 when Hillary screwed him over. Regardless, today everyone's least favorite socialist senator is really keeping in touch with his communist roots with this one, because this time, Bernie Sanders is saying the profits from Avengers Endgame should be shared with everyone at the Walt Disney Company. And of course, ironically enough, this is already happening in a way. The employees at Disney get paid from the profits of its blockbuster movies, amongst other things. But earning a decent wage at a cushy, benefit-filled job like at the worldwide corporation of Disney, well, that's not enough for these SJWs. It's really never enough for socialists like Bernie Sanders either, because in their weird, messed up world, a 24-hour, 7 days a week on-call job like a CEO or chief executive officer, well, Bernie thinks they should get paid the same as, say, a plumber or a ditch digger, who could also only be working a few days a week. I think you guys get the point so far, so before we continue, let's go ahead and check out the tweet from Bernie that started this whole controversy. It says, "What would be truly heroic is if Disney used its profits from Avengers to pay all of its workers a middle-class wage, instead of paying its CEO Bob Iger $65 million, over 1,400 times as much as the average worker at Disney makes." Well, Bernie, I hate to break it to you, but I would counter this by saying that the CEO of frickin' Walt Disney, he probably works over 1,400 times as much as the average worker at the company. I mean, what even is the average worker there? Because I'm imagining some teenager serving tacos at the food court in Disneyland, or maybe some kind of office type person like an accountant in their corporate office. And sure, there's a bit more work there, but let's not downplay the effort, skill, and strategic mindset that it takes to run a multi-billion-dollar corporation like Disney. I'm sure you guys might have seen this graphic before. This is a comprehensive infographic containing all the companies Disney owns and operates. Now, I think Bob Iger might just be in charge of that bottom circle, since Marvel and Fox are at the top and still kind of do their own thing, but still, damn, look at all this shit. Disney's got movie studios, theme parks, a music group, and they've even got loads of TV channels and streaming services. You name it in entertainment, and Disney has a hand in it, but for some reason, using some kind of stupid SJW logic that is beyond me, well, Bernie Sanders thinks the CEO of the Walt Disney Company should get paid the same as the average worker strapping tourists in the seats at Magic Mountain. It's absolutely insane and over the top, and it's a silly suggestion to say the least. Now, you might be able to argue that no person at any job should be making $65 million a year like Bob Iger, but that's not true. And I'll admit, I've certainly made this kind of argument myself before, but it's not really seeing the full picture of what's happening here. You see, if you look at it in a different way, these types of CEO positions are highly competitive, like super extremely top of their game type people become CEOs of major corporations. And if you're good and can make a company do well or better, people will keep paying you more and more for it. So with that said, let's say Disney did decide to cut down on its CEO's pay. What do you guys think will happen then? Because I think Bernie Sanders seems to be under the assumption that Bob Iger or another CEO at another company, they would just stay there and accept that loss. And maybe that might happen at first, but then the CEO will get a higher offer from another billion-dollar company, and very soon, they would be stupid to stay there where they're not getting paid what they're worth. So in Bernie's suggested situation, Disney would then lose its CEO and potentially lose its positive streak in business, thus probably losing lots of money and influence over time. Replacing a CEO can be really tricky too, so these companies are more motivated to pay them really well and keep them around for as long as they're good and doing well. And this competition, this ability for American workers to raise their own worth and rates, well, that's part of what makes this country and our capitalism great. This also brings us to why communism / communism/socialism never works, and why it's not so great. Or at the very least, it doesn't provide the competition and proper motivations to make companies as successful or prosperous. If we were in an ideal socialist situation where citizens lean on the government for everything and really had no need to make their own profits and wealth, because eventually the government would tax it all away from you anyway, well, in that situation, why would you want to work harder and do better? What's the point of working 1,400 times as hard as a ticket taker and getting basically the same compensation as a CEO? There's no real motivation in these systems to succeed, so everyone just does the bare minimum. Otherwise, you're stupid for trying harder. I know I wouldn't want to be a CEO or a company owner in, say, Cuba or Venezuela. You'd lose half your profits to taxes and government interference. And then when you do make some money, you're going to have to split it evenly with the workers who do less and easier work. No, thank you. And this is why companies want to be built and they want to prosper in systems like American and European capitalism. And this is also why socialism and communism, they never work. But back to Bernie's suggestion to Disney again. Well, like we've seen with many Democrats lately, Mr. Sanders doesn't quite practice what he preaches here. Yes, much like his fellow Democratic socialist politician Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Bernie too is not following the rules and plans that he lays out for others. And while Cortez's hypocrisy has more to do with her Green New Deal, which would require things like ending airplane travel, the use of plastic bottles and air conditioning, all things which AOC herself won't budge on at all, but she of course expects us all to do it or else the world's going to end according to her. And well, Bernie Sanders is being just as hypocritical about making money here. He is a millionaire himself after all. Bernie Sanders has made millions, mostly from writing and selling books, but how come when he gets rich, he doesn't redistribute his own wealth? I'm sure there are plenty of janitors, plumbers, and assistants at the bookmaking company who would like a piece of Bernie's action, but for some reason, when it's Bernie's millions, he gets to keep them. But then at the same time, Sanders suggests he should be in charge of Disney's profits which they earned by creating one of the most cohesive, successful, and groundbreaking cinematic universes ever, something which no one thought was even possible. But yeah, when Bernie sees others succeed, he doesn't think, oh nice, good for them, like how a normal person might. No, the socialist way to think about it is to say, hey, we want some of your money for our own causes. What a goddamn joke. Bernie won't even budge on his own taxes either. He proposes higher tax rates for everyone and everything, yet when it comes time for him to pay up, Sanders still uses all the loopholes and number fudging he can to pay the lowest amount in taxes possible. Just take a look at these clips from a town hall he was in on Fox, where Bernie struggled to explain his own double standards.
Your taxes do show that you're a millionaire. You did make $1 million in 2016, 2017. You're right, the 561 in 2018. But your marginal tax rate was 26% because of President Trump's tax cuts. So why not say, you know, I'm leading this revolution. I'm not going to take those.
Come on, we're doing. I am.
You were sounding verklempt, Bernie, and unable to answer this question without a long pause and some fidgeting. Bernie even scoffed at the beginning here, thinking it would be ridiculous for him to pay more in taxes. And of course, this is even worse when you consider the fact that Sanders wants us all to pay more in taxes. But at the same time, we can see him here refusing to do it himself. What a hypocrite. Really doesn't get much more over the top with the liberal double standards here either. And it's funny how Bernie positions himself as a Robin Hood of sorts, a hero, a man of the people, who steals from the rich to give to the poor. The thing about this is, though, the real Robin Hood wasn't rich himself like Bernie. And Robin Hood was also stealing from evil kings and wicked rich people who really abused and took advantage of their people. Disney, on the other hand, they're not doing that. I'm sure there are a few employees over the years who have had problems and grievances, and I'm also sure they're not perfect, but unless you got some kind of evidence they're committing crimes here, something to expose, then I say, back the hell off, Bern. It's not like there's some kind of evil company using a child sweatshop full of workers to make Avengers Endgame, the movie. Hell no. Marvel Studios made that movie with hundreds of actors, producers, set builders, computer animators, and more. And they were all paid handsomely, I'm sure. But for some reason, Bernie thinks the Avengers profits should jump out of Marvel Studios and into the Walt Disney Company proper and be used to pay the long guys at Disney World better for some reason. Absolutely insane, but not surprising from an old man like Bernie Sanders.
I paid the taxes that I owe. And by the way, why don't you get Donald Trump up here and ask him how much he pays in taxes?
We will.
Yeah, well, good. Well, 'cause, you know, I, 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 I,
God damn, Bernie's not only a hypocrite, he's also just plain stupid too. In addition to all the SJW identity politics shit we've seen come from him over the years, Bernie also appears to have Trump derangement syndrome real bad. Just think about this dig he tries to throw at the president here. When being called out for not paying more taxes himself, because that's what Bernie's proposing all of us do, well, brain dead Bernie then makes the genius move to try and call out Trump for not paying his fair share of taxes. And well, first of all, Trump is already paying. He's giving the IRS what is legally required. That's why he's not in debt or in jail for tax evasion. But also, Trump is not the one suggesting people pay more taxes. Quite the opposite, actually. Donald J. Trump is lowering our taxes. God bless him. And he does it so Americans can keep more of their hard-earned money and wealth for ourselves. And so we can spend our own money how we see fit. Now, with that said, criticizing Trump for paying less really doesn't make sense here, since he's not suggesting we pay more. That means Trump is practicing what he preaches here. And Bernie, well, he's just too dumb or old and senile to realize it. In the end, this is the kind of stuff that almost makes me wish Bernie Sanders gets cheated out of the Democratic nomination again. I get the feeling the establishment liberals might be backing Joe Biden this time around anyway, and really, they kinda should. Bernie is a crazy communist democratic socialist wackadoo, and while Biden isn't much better, he still is a little bit better, because at least Biden will resist all this wealth redistribution socialism bullcrap, hopefully. Regardless though, neither of these two Democrats will ever beat Trump, so might as well see Bernie get screwed over again by his own party, just for shits and gigs. What do you guys think? Should Bernie Sanders be able to tell Disney what to do with their money and profits? And what makes Bernie think he knows better about business anyway? I know he's been in politics for a long time, but he's never really done or accomplished anything while he's there. Comment your thoughts and everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see y'all next time.